Oil prices right now are trading at $115 a barrel, and I wanted to go down memory lane and remind us that the situation we're in is 100% political. The video that I'm about to play is a debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in October 2020 when they're debating for the presidency. And during this video, during this debate, oil prices were $40-something a barrel.
Expensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute. Chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute.
They pollute.
I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware.
Congratulations.
And the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window.
Oh, wow.
That's why so many people in my state were dying.
Oh, everyone died. Okay.
The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them. It matters how you keep them safe. What do you do?
Keep them safe, Joe.
Impose restrictions on the pollutions.
Put the restrictions on oil companies, Joe.
Communities.
He's trying to keep people safe. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the oil and gas industry is murdering people. It's destroying the world. It's causing global warming. It's causing hurricanes and fires and earthquakes. I mean, he goes on and on and on to talk about all of those things in his campaign. I mean, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, all of them spent billions of dollars collectively to send the message to the world: the fossil fuel industry is evil. And here we are today. During this debate, oil was $40-something a barrel. Today, $115 oil. I wonder why. Then he goes on to talk about who he's going to transition from the fossil fuel industry to the green. That's like jumping off a perfectly good building onto a trampoline that isn't even there. Look, there was no transition at all. There was no zero handoff. It was a messy transition, and then the transition didn't even work. They went from oil to green tech, begging oil to start producing again, and they're not listening to Joe. I wonder why. Here's another, this was a video from yesterday, and another confirmation as to how the Biden administration is destroying fossil fuels.
Back to those high gas prices, Senator Bill Cassidy is with us, a Republican, Louisiana. Mr. Senator, at hearings on Capitol Hill, you said the Biden administration has killed U.S. energy production. That's a bit strong. You want to make your case, Mr. Senator?
It's been death by 1,000 cuts. Of course, we could speak about canceling Keystone XL pipeline first week of the administration, but more importantly, or at least since then, they have sent signal after signal to the capital markets that fossil fuel investment is to be strongly discouraged. Without capital investment, you're not going to have those new drills well.
So bottom line, I mean, the Biden administration has discouraged investment in fossil fuels. In the very first week of his administration, he canceled the Keystone pipeline. He's been anti-fossil fuels because his base is anti-fossil fuels. He needed something to differentiate himself from Donald Trump. And so Donald Trump was pro-oil. So he made this huge campaign about how scientifically proven global warming is real. And if we don't do something about it, the world's going to come to an end. So it came down to good versus evil. And he won that debate. That's why he got into office. And now his base that voted him in, based purely upon this battle between greed versus green versus fossil fuels. And he's still in office. And so what is he going to do? He's going to cover his base. He's going to protect his base. He's going to continue to keep pushing green policies, keep putting restrictions on the fossil fuel industry because they're so evil and they're polluting the world. And he's trying to reduce emissions. And none of this is working. Green's not working. All of the controls on pollutions isn't working. Nothing's working. And here we are paying for it. All right. So this is the CEO for Pioneer, and he's going to talk about the effects of the Biden administration on the fossil fuel industry and what they're dealing with. This is a real guy in the oil industry.
But we need support of our fossil fuel industry. Banks aren't loaning. There's no private equity out there in our industry. And so it's got to start with the president to send a new message. So I like what he did today. He sent a message, we're banning Russian oil and gas imports. The EU needs to do it. The UK did it. Canada did it. We need Japan, South Korea to do it. And then you're probably going to lose about 3 to 4 million barrels a day, potentially.
That's a lot.
There's only two places you can get it from. Saudi and the UAE. He needs to go back. He needs to go to Saudi, take a trip immediately, and reestablish relationships with Saudi. Secondly, he needs to support our industry. Only the U.S. shale industry can help solve this long term, and the Saudis and the UAE.
But it's odd to hear an American oil and gas producer say we need to go to the Saudis. Is that simply because in the near term, there's nothing we can do? The CEO of ConocoPhillips told us earlier today that if he made the phone call and he called up his board and said, let's produce more oil starting tomorrow, and they started putting everything in motion, by the time that first drop of new oil comes out of the ground, it's going to be minimum of 8 months, more likely a year. Is that the problem? It's not turning on a tap.
No, exactly. We also have shortages of frac sand already. We have labor shortages. We have shortages of frac fleets, rigs that need to be put back together.
Here's the bottom line. What we're hearing constantly from the fossil fuel industry is that we're not getting support from the current administration. They've been anti-oil. They're telling the world a message, but their policies are telling a different story. They're blaming everything on Putin. But back in the last debate between Trump and Biden, he warned us of all of this. And here we are. Okay. And it really didn't take that much intelligence to understand what would happen if we come against the American oil and gas industry. We were producing 13 million barrels a day. Oil was around $40-something a barrel. And then under the Biden administration, we put restrictions on the fossil fuel industry. They had a tremendous amount of anti-propaganda against the fossil fuel industry, and the big boys that invest in energy sat on their hands, as where the Generation Z, Generation X, all the younger generation that voted this crazy man in was only investing in Bitcoin, in green tech, and Apple, in things they liked. They don't like fossil fuels. Why? Because it's not cool. Oil is not cool. It's a dirty, evil industry, but Tesla's cool. Right now, WTI crude's $115 a barrel. Brent crude is $119 a barrel. Oil prices rally on robust demand outlook. Oil prices rose early on Thursday, extending this week's gains, as demand looks strong with the U.S. driving season starting and Shanghai and China gradually reopening after 2 months of strict lockdowns. Commercial crude oil inventories fell by 1 million barrels in the week to May 20th at 419.8 million barrels of crude. Oil inventories are 14% below the 5-year average for this time of the year. Okay, so it just simply means we are burning more oil than we are producing. Okay, a tentative reopening in Shanghai with a gradual resumption of in-person classes at schools in June is also supportive of oil prices today. On the supply side, OPEC Plus is likely to rubber stamp the next week in its monthly production increase of 432,000 barrels per day for July. 6 sources at OPEC told Reuters on Thursday. OPEC is estimated to be more than 2 million barrels a day below quota, and oil output in Russia is falling instead of rising due to the Western sanctions on Moscow over the invasion of Ukraine. And so here's the deal. OPEC is taking advantage of these high oil prices, and they're taking in profits. They've been hit pretty hard the last several years under Trump because at $50-something a barrel, they weren't profiting. Well, finally, they're able to profit. And the tighter they keep the oil markets, the more money they make. Listen, OPEC is controlling oil prices. And they're taking full advantage of the fact that we have a gentleman in office that is destroying the oil and gas industry. Not only is he discouraging oil investment in the U.S., across the globe, because America is the trendsetter. Everybody wanted to go green. Well, now we're starting to figure out this stuff doesn't work. And based upon what the CEO of Pioneer is saying, from the day they start investing to the day they see a brand new barrel of oil, it takes about a year. Okay. Bigger companies take longer to turn that thing around. Guys, if that's true, which it is, where are we going to be at in a year? By the time the oil starts increasing, what's going to happen? There's not enough spare capacity, and Russia's on the chopping block. It's unbelievable. And so right here, Brent could push past $150 per barrel if Russian oil exports shrink, Bank of America says. Okay, and Bank of America is a little late to the game here. Global oil benchmark Brent crude could rise past $150 a barrel if there's a sharp contraction in Russian oil exports, Bank of America Global Research said on Friday. With $120 a barrel Brent target now in sight, we believe that a sharp contraction in Russian oil exports could push Brent well past $150 a barrel, the bank said in a research note. The European Commission has proposed an oil embargo on Russia through talks have failed to produce a breakthrough so far, with Hungary vetoing the move. Okay, so oil prices were on track for weekly gains on Friday, supported by a prospect of tight market due to rising gasoline consumption in the United States in summer and the possibility of the EU ban on Russian oil. Now, here's the deal, guys. Okay. Under Donald Trump, we were at $40-something a barrel. Under Joe Biden, we're at $115 a barrel. And then there's a Ukraine war, which, because of the weakness of this administration, it's causing much bolder examples of Russia dropping bombs in Ukraine, Afghanistan, Syria, what's happening with the Houthi rebels. I mean, war in the Middle East is only going to get more interesting. Okay. And so with everything, the geopolitical risk has skyrocketed under Joe Biden. Joe Biden continues to defend his policies against fossil fuels and to push the green tech. The green tech just isn't there, guys. It doesn't, and it's unbelievable. I mean, I've had people come to my house trying to debate with me. I mean, people knocking on my door trying to push the Green Deal. They're trying to push solar power panels on all the schools and your home and everything else. I told them, I was like, look, we can't do this without fossil fuels. And they're so brainwashed. They're like, well, don't you know what fossil fuels is doing to your lungs and doing to the world and climate change and all those things? The science is surrounded by people that agree with their science. But at the end of the day, fossil fuels is not as bad as what they're saying. I mean, if it was true, then we'd all be dead already. It just simply isn't true. I mean, COVID didn't kill us. Fossil fuels hasn't killed us. The world is still turning. I mean, the universe was created, and there were certain things in place to clean the oxygen. I mean, that's what trees do. They take the carbon dioxide and they convert it to clean oxygen. They take emissions and they convert it to clean. I mean, if they really cared, they would stop driving their cars, stop charging their phones. They would stop buying plastic. There are more byproducts. Oil is the most traded commodity in the world. It is the most important commodity. It is the most important resource in the world. It is more important than any other commodity. If we had a choice between green tech and fossil fuels, at the end of the day, we would choose fossil fuels because it's the only thing that works at the moment. Okay, there's a transition that does need to be made. Eventually, we need to go from fossil fuels to green tech. But until there is a tech that can replace fossil fuels, we need to continue to develop for tomorrow's energy. We have procrastinated long enough. The Biden administration needs to get behind the fossil fuel industry. They need to stop defending their ridiculous policies, or we could potentially see $150 oil. All right, guys, I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, please subscribe. And if you're interested in investing in oil and gas, there's been no better time to get involved with oil and gas. And there's nothing more patriotic than in getting involved in oil. We need it. Americans need it. The world, the globe needs it. Oil is a global commodity, and the world is desperate for lower energy prices. All right, guys, we'll talk soon. Thanks.